Hi everyone, it's great to see you. This is the time of year that you might be looking at your hydrangeas and wondering, okay, what do I do with them now? Some of them still look good, some of them don't look good. So I'm going to walk you through my process of deciding whether I'm going to leave the mop heads on or whether this is time to trim them off. And you know, with the mop heads, these Macrophylla hydrangeas, they pretty much tell you, do not prune these, because a number of them bloom just on old wood, and even those that are remontant and rebloom, they're going to bloom on old wood next spring and then have a second flush of flowers, so we don't want to cut off any of those potential blooms for next year. If you do need, for some reason, to prune your mop head hydrangeas though, now is like the only time you can do it. So I would say in the next week or so, you want to get that taken care of, because we still have some time here in zone 6B, 7A to have some new growth and put on some buds for next year. And then that'll be the old wood. It's growing now. But if you wait another couple weeks, 3 weeks, we're getting past that time and you really will be cutting off those buds. But let's really talk about how your mop heads are looking. It was a fabulous year for Macrophylla hydrangea. We had a great winter that was mild here, so we have lots of blossoms. However, once the hydrangea bloomed, we had a couple weeks of high heat and less rain the rest of the year. So that affects how these blossoms are going to age. When you're determining whether you're going to cut these off or not, you're looking at two different things. You're looking at the variety, because some of your varieties of Macrophylla hydrangea just hold their colors better and tend to look better much longer. And then you also each year have to consider the weather. You could have a great type of hydrangea that usually looks great all the way to the end of August, end of September, but you had too much heat this year or too much of a dry spell and they have browned up like this. Now, if your flowers are looking like this, they are crunchy, they are brown, they are not coming back. I don't care what you do. They are not going to once again rejuvenate and look beautiful and colorful. I don't want this look. So I'm going to walk around and I'm going to clip off and deadhead those that look really past and sad. And I do that by looking right underneath. Usually there's a couple little leaves close to it, and then you get a pair of leaves that's fairly big. I go to that first pair that's fairly big and snip. And you don't really have to worry if you're snipping them at an angle or straight. Do the best you can. You don't want to clip too close to where the leaf is joining, because often it's that little junction there that is going to send out buds. So you're going to leave just a little bit of the stem up top and do a snip. So let me show you again. Always have a container nearby to throw them into. So I'm going to tip this up, and it has a number of the brown petals there. Here's some little tiny leaves, and then I'm going to cut right before the next set of larger leaves. And I'm just going to go through and do that. Now, if your hydrangeas don't need this, you can leave them on. And usually by the end of the winter, the wind has come and it's going to knock them off anyway. But for this, I think it's just going to clean it up so much nicer. Okay, now some of your hydrangeas that are reblooming, remontant, are going to send up another flush of flowers. So maybe you're taking these old ones off to make, get ready for that next flush of flowers before the end of fall. Then you have to ask yourself, once you have your main part here trimmed off, are you happy having this as a centerpiece if it's in a pot the rest of the year, or do you want to change that up with something else? So the great thing with the bag in the pot method is that I can go in here, I can wiggle it out, here it comes, the whole thing, and I can put something in that's going to look fabulous and in bloom. Now, With this bush though, I'm gonna put it in the garden. It'll give some beautiful green foliage. I'm gonna keep it watered, make sure that it's doing really well, but it doesn't have to be the focal point. Look at this. Wow, it looks great. We even have some creeping Jenny in the top here too. So let's see what I can find to put in the top. So my rim gap is looking great still. We have lots of petunias, the creeping Jenny. I'm good with leaving this. But I need a nice focal point. Now, yesterday I was so lucky. I went to Home Depot, and these are Diplodina. That is the type of mandevilla that doesn't vine up. It just sort of spills out like a bush, and people use these for hangers. And normally they sell these for about $40, $45, and they had them on sale for $12.98. They look great, and here they will bloom until frost. So all I'm going to do is take this right in its pot and set it right in. This will settle in. I can cut off the hanger or cut off the hook and use this as a little trellis for it. And I will have some gorgeous pink flowers. My hydrangea bush will be out in the rest of the garden, doing its regular photosynthesis, putting on buds for next year, and I'll have a new centerpiece here. But not all of my hydrangea need to be moved out into the garden. Let's take a look at some other varieties. So let's take a look at this hydrangea. This hydrangea looks fabulous. This is an unknown variety. It's probably some type of florist hydrangea. I do protect it over the winter, but I look at these blossoms and hey, same deck that it's been on, same weather, but they're not turning brown. They look really good still. And knowing this variety, they're probably going to have at least another month, if not longer, to look good. So I don't particularly need to trim this down. Now I have been waiting to trim a little bit because of this funny branch right here. I didn't want to miss these blossoms, but sometimes when you have your hydrangeas, they throw out some weird branches, and what I like to do is let them bloom, and then since this is the time of year that you are going to want to do any pruning that you're going to prune, I'm going to take this off, and then I can bring this in and just enjoy it in a vase. The blossoms will be inside, but now I have a more regularly shaped bush, and I feel better about that. So if you have a situation like that, it is the time to do a little selective pruning just to make sure it looks its best. But you wouldn't want to go, oh, I want everything down 6 inches and take all those branches off, because the one I cut here will not bloom next year. Let's keep going. I have a little harder time deciding on these two bushes. Some of them just look antiqued. I like this, it's nice and rounded. It has a little bit of brown, but I see enough color that I think that's pretty good. But I have some over here that are looking more brown. So I'm gonna take it down to that first big set of leaves for those that have a lot more browning in them. So it's really, you have to go with what you feel is best for you. Once again, no right or wrong. If you want to leave all the brown on there and you're okay with that, go for it. If you feel like, nope, they're all passed and I'm ready to deadhead all of them, that is fine too. Okay, that gets me those that look the worst. Those that start to droop into a pathway or something, this is also a good time to trim those. Let's head over to the side. Here's Macrophylla Love, and this is just a great example of a Macrophylla that is showing a lot of different stages of bloom, but it's not browning, so I don't feel like I need to trim it. So here's one way over here that is nice and new and bloomed, and then here's one that is a little older but still has a lot of the pink color, and then down here, here's one that is aging, but it's not brown in aging, so I'm gonna leave it just like that. Behind me, I have Summer Crush, And wow, this is really amazing. We have some really new blossoms with this bright, bright color. And then we have a lot that are antiqued. Now, if you see a lot coming on with this new color and you're like, I just want to show those off, I'm going to take the antiqued ones off. You certainly could. The antiqued ones to me, except for a few that seem to have a lot more of the brown leaves, I like the color that they give here. So I'm going to leave those. So here I have Macrophylla Let's Dance Rhythmic Blue, and these 3 bushes did amazing. Look at all these blossoms. I love that it still looks plentiful, that we still have color in here, but there are some that have a lot more brown on them than others. So those that have succumbed to the high heat and not a lot of water, I'm gonna take the worst of these off, but I'm gonna leave most of them. And I think that that'll just bring out the color a little bit more. Just those that are crispy, crispy. Okay, there's some back here, and I'm even seeing some new, beautiful, bright color in here, and I just love that. This looks like it's mainly the oldest that have gotten the tiredest here, so I'm going to snip those. Oh, these are gorgeous. I love the size that the mop heads got with this particular plant. They bloomed last year after the rough winter, and this year without the rough winter have been amazing. Here we have Forever and Ever Peppermint. It was one of the first hydrangeas to bloom this spring. It was wonderful. It's looking kind of sad now. And I have a number of these spilling over into the walkway. So I am going to just deadhead those so I have a little more walking space. And I'm also taking a couple of the other branches back just a bit because I know this is my window of opportunity to trim anything that I want trimmed back a bit. Now the best thing to do is to plant your hydrangea so that it fits its space really well. So you're not pruning so that you're making it smaller, you're just making it look better. Oh, and that already looks better. Here is Magical Ruby, and it certainly is magical because these are really dried and antiqued, and look at how much color they are holding. Amazing. I'm going to leave pretty much all of these. Maybe this one here that has a little bit of crispiness can come, but I think these still look pink enough that I want to leave them all on. And here we have Big Band, which looked great. It was one of my first to bloom, but it really has aged quite crispy and brown. So I'm going to be taking a lot of these mop heads off. Now this is a reblooming one, so hopefully it'll throw up a few more blossoms. Take a look at these 2 mop heads. This is Forever and Ever Heavenly Blue. We have an antiqued mop head, the older blossoms, and then a newer one, but they're big, they're beautiful. Even though it's antiqued, I don't see browning in it, so this is looking great. I'm just gonna let them be, even though they're resting towards the ground. Now here's an example of a hydrangea that I think if it hadn't been quite as hot this last week, we would not have the browning here. This is Proven Winners Lovable, and it is truly lovable. It's had great color, but it has gotten toasty. So I am going to take these off. Now this is my first year with it blooming. I don't know if it will send up more blossoms or not. It is remontant, so it might, but it is still a baby too. So we'll see, but at least it's looking nice and tidy and cleaned up. Now this is an interesting case here because this is Wee Bit Giddy. It holds its color really, really well. They keep these large florets still quite pink, even as they're antiqued. But because of the huge rainstorm, shroop, it all went over. You know, I like the look that it's overflowing still. To me, this says bountiful garden, and I'm just going to leave it like this, and it should be fine. I do have some oddly shaped branches now, and if I don't want those branches next year, I might trim them when I take them into the shed. But for now, it's okay. It says green, it says lots of flowers and some pink color to me, and I love that. So as you're out in your garden, if you see some of your hydrangeas have gotten really crispy, you'll know, well, that was sort of the weather that it was this summer, and maybe they won't be as crispy next year. Do what you feel most comfortable with, but remember, we're trying to just deadhead if you're taking these off and not cut the rest of your Macrophylla hydrangeas so that they will be ready to give you another beautiful hydrangea season next year. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.